So I tell every single one of my clients, pain is a request for change. That's what it is. It's your nervous system and your brain and the sum of all the available perceptual evidence saying, we need you to change something. So that equation metaphor is just what to change. Now, most PTs like, we're just going to get stronger in this local tissue. Great. Awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. And if we're talking about normal people, distribution of probability, and you have somebody who's deconditioned and sedentary and generally doesn't exercise, a little bit of non-specific exercise is going to go a long way for that person. That's going to be a little bit of that like general physical preparedness. I work with athletes who have performance goals, not just like, can I take the garbage out? And again, not to downplay those goals. They're important, right? But I just think when we start talking about this from like a sports performance perspective, it's like the athlete, their goals and wants aren't the things I'm doing in rehab or in the weight room for training. It's the sport. That's the outcome measure that they're looking at. So, and I think this plays well for general population people because like, how do we fit a training mindset into life?
Yeah.
The sport of life, like all the other responsibilities and things that you have to do. But again, I think this is kind of what we were talking about in Raleigh, which is like getting people to connect that why you're doing it. A lot of people just don't have a reason to do it, a good enough reason that they've connected to that's like, okay, this is worth it. This struggle and leaning into this is worth it. I'm fortunate, I guess, in a, roundabout way because people come to me in pain. So they're already motivated to change. Now I get to be the person that reveals to them the opportunities in their equation and say, here's my vision for you. This is what I want to attack over the next 3 months. And this is exactly how we're going to do it. How does that sound? And I'm probably the first person on the other side of that clipboard to actually give a shit enough to say, here's my vision for you. And from a patient's perspective, they're like, finally.
Yeah.
Finally, somebody who's actually going to show me exactly what I need to do and teach me. And that's what we do. And then by the end of that 3 months, now it's not just a client. This is a friend, a person in our community that values us and we value them. And that's how we've made this thing not a transactional business, but what I say is a transformative business, transformation. Because it's changing not only us as a staff, it's changing them deeply because we can get them to stick with it long enough.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. If, somebody's sedentary, not an athlete, they go and they do this localized stuff and it helps.
Great.
My question would be this. Number one, they do that and most likely, regardless of who the physical therapist is, they're going to be like, you should probably start working out and building overall strength, go to the gym, do something basic.
You hope so.
Right. And so now it doesn't fully translate to that training because they weren't training or they weren't preparing for that in the physical therapy. But then also if they bent over and grabbed a case of water bottles and that's what hurt their back and they go to physical therapy, next time it's rotating to do something else and they hurt something else. And this is where I'm like, yeah, but if we just do that one thing and the person doesn't get better as a whole, at least a little bit, doesn't that end up sending them right back to PT eventually?
I mean, again, that's kind of the crux of, I think for most, and again, this is a generalization, and I don't want to make this an attack on physical therapy as a profession by any means. Athletic training has its own bag of issues as a profession, but, by and large, in physical therapy school, and I know this because my wife's a physical therapist, but also I've trained and taught hundreds, if not thousands of PTs. I've taught at PT schools. So I've worked with PT those programs. And yes, they learn exercise, but they don't learn like advanced progressions, periodization models, so it does run out of some runway, right? And I guess an athletic trainer, like our role is like, we're pretty versatile in the sense that we can kind of work in both of those spheres. So I was a personal trainer before I was licensed as an athletic trainer. So again, it's just one of those things where there's a time and a place for everything. There's many ways to do this. My approach has always been to identify the deficit and let's help fill in that deficit. But in doing so and evaluating the movement like we did with you, it's like I also have a pretty good idea of what you can do well now, meaning what can I train you in safely and load you to create some of those general physiological adaptations while we work on maybe this one joint that doesn't move particularly well or has some tissue glide issues or has some pain problem that makes it hard for you to like connect to that part of your body. So again, it's just a matter of like finding the entry point for a lot of these people. And the cool part for us, as like this hybrid model of like rehab and fitness is we're now able to seamlessly move them into a purely training model once we've resolved that pain issue. And that's where the sustainability comes in. And for the client, they get to work with the same guys and the same staff. And it's so cool because when we opened the big facility, which was only 2 years ago, we went from 0 members to 120 members in 1 year with 0 marketing spend, because all of those people came in with a pain problem for the reputation that we built for the rehab side, and we kept them.
Yeah.